A final from Philadelphia where the Fightin' Phils beat the Braves 8-3 and advanced to the NLCS for the first time since 2010. How about Bryce Harper in this series? 8 for 16, 2 homers, 5 RBI. Brandon Marsh had a 3-run homer in this game, a guy they acquired at the trade deadline. Noah Syndergaard, they got him as well. He was sharp to start this game. And how about JT Real Muto with an inside-the-park home run? First catcher ever do that in the postseason. I mean, it's the magical season continues for the Phillies. They were 22-29 on June 3rd. Fired Joe Girardi. All they've gone is 70-47 under Rob Thompson, beating the Cardinals as underdogs in the wild card round, then knocked off the reigning World Series champs here in the divisional round. As for the Braves, the defending champs get bounced. We haven't seen back-to-back World Series champs since the Yankees three-peat from 1998 to 2000. And so the Phillies out of the NL East, both the 101-win Braves out of the postseason, the 101 Mets out of the postseason, and the Phillies are still the team standing from the NL East. I mean, I have that as not likely. I have that as improbable. I'm thinking you're thinking the same. Instant analysis, welcoming our heavy hitters, former Marlins president David Samson, the host of Nothing Personal, and CBS Sports MLB writer Matt Snyder. David Samson, this is improbable considering that they fired Joe Girardi, made Rob Thompson their interim skipper. At one point, they lost Bryce Harper to an injury. Here they are advancing to the NLCS. Your reaction is what?
When you fire a manager mid-season, you're hoping for exactly this. We did it in 03, and we caught the magic and rode it all the way to a ring. The Phillies were desperate. They were not playing well. They were not paying attention to Girardi. They tried something, and the players love Rob Thompson. Everything he's touching is turning to gold, and you said it perfectly. No one had on their bingo card the Phillies still around when the Braves and Mets are not, and now they find themselves 8 games away from actually getting that ring. Pretty remarkable.
Yeah, there's multiple times during the season when I said it's really fun to watch the Phillies, maybe more so if you're not a Phillies fan, because you never know what you're going to get on any given night. I said they could rip off 12 wins in a row or they could rip off 12 losses in a row. And I said they could win the World Series, but they could also lose 8 in a row to end the season and fall out of the playoffs. And it's just because they have high-end talent, guys like Bryce Harper, who we saw go crazy in this series, Rhys Hoskins, we saw hit a big home run, Kyle Schwarber, who we saw do nothing this series and get really mad at one of his last at-bats, Wheeler, Nola atop the rotation. But there's a lot of variability in there, and if everybody was slumping at the wrong time, they could go into a rut, and they kind of went into a rut before they fired Girardi, and it ended up really working out for them. It's been really fun to watch it all come together. It's fun watching Citizens Bank Park rock like it did the past 2 days. And things are clicking right now. I do think they're probably better built for shorter series than they are longer series. But you know what? Who cares right now?
I want to take you back to a critical moment in this game. Bottom of the third, JT Real Muto inside the park home run. But where was Ronald Acuna Jr.? And what was he doing, David, on that play, just standing there? I'm not sure what he was thinking on that play.
So we teach our players that every time there's a ball in play, you are on the move. It doesn't matter. All players on the field are moving. But interestingly enough, there's so few balls in play that maybe the players are just out of practice. But Acuna is standing there. He's got to be backing up because that carom right and left center off the State Farm sign, that's exactly what can happen. It's exactly what did happen. And you have to know who's hitting. JT is fast. He's not your standard catcher. He can run. And so that was a critical run because they had just tried to come back. They had gotten it closer, and then JT hits the home run to open it up again. But that was the least of the Braves' problems. They just struggled. And when the Phillies, Matt said it perfectly, when the Phillies are hitting the way they hit this series, they're going to be very hard to beat. And I disagree, Matt, a little bit because in a long series, they're now ready. They go Wheeler, Nola, and they are lined up for the championship series. And I got news for you. The Padres and Dodgers, they could end up going 5 games, and their rotations could be a little backwards. So who's to say that the Phillies can't represent the National League this year?
That's a very good point, actually, because if the other series goes 5, it might be a situation last year or like last year, for example, when the Dodgers had to burn Max Scherzer in the 9th inning of Game 5, and then their rotation was kind of messed up a little bit by the NLCS. The Phillies do get that extra day to set the rotation, so they'll have Wheeler and Nola twice each. So yeah, maybe I didn't think it all the way through. I was just too excited here, I guess. I do want to say on the real Muto inside the park home run, I think it's fair to say Acuna should have been breaking a little bit, and maybe it would have made a difference. But as David said, probably not the biggest deal in the grand scheme of things there. Even if they were able to hold Real Muto to a triple on that play, I don't think it was going to make a big difference in the game.
This has been a magical run for the Philadelphia Phillies. And Matt, I want to take you back to a moment on June 25th. Bryce Harper got hit in the hand by Blake Snell. And I don't call you out on this to make you look bad. I call you out on this to show the unpredictability of baseball and what can happen. You know, David does this a lot in his show, #Wait to See. And so when we're having this conversation, you and I, there's breaking news. There's the three-alarm fire. The sirens are going at your house. Get up on HQ, Matt. And so we bring you on, and I ask you about Bryce Harper being injured and what are the chances they make the postseason after this. And you said what?
Oh, I said it was over. They were cooked. They were completely out of it, and they were not going to make the playoffs. If you had video of it, I was going to say that it was clearly doctored, and I was kidding, and I didn't think it through. It was. You know what? I did not think they were going to make the playoffs when he broke his thumb. I thought that he was such a linchpin to an offense on a team that, like I said earlier, has so much variability, volatility, whatever you want to say. I didn't think that without him that they could hold it together. To their credit, they did. They went through some rough patches. They got swept by the Cubs at Philadelphia to come out of the All-Star break. In fact, they lost all 6 games of the Cubs. But, you know, like I said, there's a lot of up and downs with them. And when they ride the wave of the ups, they could go a long way. And they're on a big up right now.
Yeah, they went 32-20 during that span without Bryce Harper, and they stayed in the race. And, of course, they're fortunate because of the third wild card, right? If there was not a third wild card, they wouldn't be in this situation. And Bryce Harper comes back at the end of the season. Now Bryce Harper getting a chance to play in his first NLCS. Look at his numbers this postseason. Against the Braves, 8 for 16, just a robust 500 with 2 homers, including the one in the elimination game, 5 RBIs. David, this is what you want if you're a Phillies fan. This is what you want in the front office in Philadelphia, your stars to be stars in the postseason.
Well, when they signed him to that contract, they certainly knew that they had to get at least 1 ring for that contract to be anything worthwhile. And when the Nationals won the World Series in 19 after Harper left, I was one of the people. I thought you were going to put me up with my video saying not only are the Phillies not going to make the playoffs, but any team with Bryce Harper is not going to win. But what Philadelphia did, and I like the signing of Schwarber this year, JT Realmuto is such a leader. And now Segura has actually been a great addition to that team, great leadership on every side of the clubhouse. And frankly, what it's done, it's brought cohesion. And then you bring in a manager, anyone not Girardi, and now you've got a clubhouse ready to go. The owner, John Middleton, stepped out of the way, and you've got a situation where this team has confidence. And in October, confidence means as much as your rotation, as much as your bullpen, and as much as Harper going 500. But boy, does he want a ring. And this is going to be a great opportunity for him because the Padres and the Dodgers, the Phillies have winning records against both of those teams during the regular season. The Dodgers have plenty of holes, as we're seeing in the current LDS. And the Padres are the Padres. You never know what you're going to get day to day. So it's possible that we could argue that the Phillies are now favored over either one of those 2 teams, but I'm going to argue that very, very quietly.
Yeah, and on Harper, let's go back to Game 2 of the last series. In the first inning, it was the second inning, leading off the second inning, his first at bat of the game, when he hit a home run to right field. It was a prodigious blast, and kind of a vintage Bryce Harper home run that we've all seen so many times. That was his first pull side home run since he got back from the broken thumb. And you almost wonder if, I don't think he necessarily hurried back from the thumb injury, but he just didn't feel right at the plate. And he's still getting his cuts in and trying to get back into maybe kind of like his second spring training after that much of an extended absence. And he's only hitting because he has the elbow injury, so he's not playing the field. Maybe he hadn't quite felt like himself. Maybe when he took that swing, he kind of felt like, oh man, now I'm back. because the best players are confident to the point of being cocky. And if you don't feel like your full self, you're not going to hit the way you can. I think once he took that swing and hit that ball into the right field seats in St. Louis, he felt like, hey, I'm back. And now he's all the way into that mode where he's confident to the point of being cocky. And he feels like every single at bat he's going to park one. And he really looks like he might right now.
And Matt, I take you back to that game one of that wild card series when they put up 6 runs in the ninth. How did that all start? It was a 1-2 count to Bryce Harper, and he worked a walk, and they load the bases, and it was him talking about grinding out at bats. He wasn't trying to do too much. He was looking for a pitch to hit. He didn't get it. He starts the rally, and what do you know happens? They win the game. 6 runs in the ninth. They scored 6 runs in the third in Game 3 against the Braves. These 6-run innings for the Phillies, it really feels magical. In terms of the Braves, it was not magical for them as they try to repeat. That does not happen. Acuna, Swanson, and Olsen 1 for 12 in Game 4. And in terms of Dansby Swanson, David, this was perhaps Dansby Swanson swan song because he's a free agent, probably not going to bring him back with Vaughn Grissom, the youngster, waiting in the wings to take over.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be Ray Cherchet around the league, and the Braves are not afraid to let him go. They're going to let him go. They have decided that they have extended a bunch of their other young players, and that makes sense. I think it's important to point out that the switch from Freeman to Olsen, that's not what hurt the Braves. The fact that Acuna was playing this year versus he didn't play in the postseason last year, that's not what hurt the Braves. It takes so much luck to win a ring. And remember their trade deadline acquisitions last year. Soler, Rosario, Duvall, they were so critical during the postseason. And you require that. You require someone to step up. And the Braves just couldn't get it going. And you felt for them almost from the beginning when Max Fried did not look like the dominant ace that he needed to look like in Game 1 of this series when the Phillies won Game 1 7-6. And you could just tell it wasn't going to be great. And then Strider's coming back from the injury. You're hoping that a rookie coming back from an injury can help you in a huge, huge Game 3. That didn't work out. So all the magic that the Braves had last year, it ran out. And that's why it's so hard to repeat. And no one's done it for 22 years.
Yeah, exactly. And if there is a such thing as baseball karma, everything that they used last year, they gave it all back this year because this was a better team than they were last year. They just didn't get the breaks this year, and they really could not get it going offensively. I mean, we can and should concentrate on some of the starting pitching issues that they had. But if you go back, Game 1, they didn't start scoring until it was too late. Game 2, the game they won, they didn't score until the 6th inning. And they only scored 3 runs in that inning, and it was because Rhys Hoskins couldn't handle a really hard ground ball at first. Then there was an infield single that was in no man's land. And then there was a single by Travis d'Arnaud after that, but that was all with 2 outs, and they scored 3 runs there that were all kind of like, it wasn't really that great of an inning. Then you get to Philadelphia. They couldn't hit in Game 3. Today, they had 3 runs, but they were all solo home runs. And the thing about the Braves is they were always going to hit home runs, but what the Phillies did was limit that damage by not letting them on base. They didn't hit 3-run home runs. They were solo home runs, and they just couldn't get it going as a whole. And it was a short series. Sometimes those things happen. Like I said, they used an awful lot of baseball karma last year, so they probably gave some of it right back.
Well, now for the Philadelphia Phillies who move on. And what I can't, I mean, it's improbable. I mean, I'm sitting here, I can't believe that I'm talking about the Phillies go to the NLCS. I'm happy for them. Remember, they played I think the last, 7 games on the road to end the regular season. I mean, everything was up against them. Fired Joe Girardi. Then, obviously, Rob Thompson does a great job managing that team. They remove the interim tag from him. And then they're into the NLCS. And look, we're sitting here saying that they could go to the World Series and represent the National League. David, I agree with you. I mean, this team we talk about teams that are playing free and playing with house money. This is what the Phillies are doing right now. They both, against both of the teams that they would face in the NLCS perhaps, went 4-3 against the Padres and 4-3 against the Dodgers. And Matt, if I remember correctly, they swept the series in LA during the regular season.
They almost did. It was a 4-game series, and they were about to sweep, and the Dodgers had a walk-off in the bottom of the ninth in the last game. But they almost did. They were right there, and they showed that they're not going to go into Dodger Stadium and be intimidated or anything like that, just the way the Padres haven't. And the Padres were owned by the Dodgers in the regular season. Whichever way it goes, it's going to be really fun for me because I still feel like you can play a David versus Goliath type situation if it's Phillies and Dodgers, and I don't think the Phillies will be intimidated at all. But if it's Padres-Phillies, it's like man, we finally get a reprieve from all the same teams, and we have a fresh matchup here. And it's not like they're void of star power here. You've got Bryce Harper and Manny Machado. You've got Juan Soto in there against a former NL East rival. And, if you look at the starting pitching matchups, you're going to end up with stuff like Aaron Nola versus Yu Darvish or Joe Musgrove versus Zach Wheeler. It could be a lot of fun. I'm kind of leaning that way and hoping it happens. But, it's not like I'm going to root against the Dodgers, because a Dodgers-Phillies matchup would also be really fun. I'm ready for either one.
Yeah, David, they played the Dodgers in L.A. on May 12th, and then they played the Dodgers on May 22nd. That was their final game. They were in L.A., they played at home against San Diego, then at home against the Dodgers again. I mean, it was Dodgers, Padres, Dodgers again. That was early in the season, and the Phillies at that time, after all those three series were over, they were 19-22. And that's obviously early in the season, and that's not really a great sample in terms of how to handicap this NLCS. Let me ask you the question this way. Who would they rather face in the NLCS?
I think they'd rather face a team that wins in 18 innings tomorrow night at 1 a.m. Eastern time. So
Yep.
For them, when you're this far in the postseason, we were waiting in Chicago to figure out if we're going to play the Red Sox or the Yankees when Aaron Boone hit the walk-off. We really didn't care who we were playing. We just wanted to know where we were going to fly. And here's a little nugget for you. The Phillies are going on the road no matter what for Tuesday's game, and they're going to California no matter what. If I'm running the Phillies, I'm getting this team to California now, because if this game goes 5, then it could be decided tomorrow really late at night, and you don't want to fly to California on the off day on Monday. You want to get there so you can work out with your team on Monday in the stadium in which you're playing. So the traveling secretary right now is working feverishly to decide whether or not they're going to go to San Diego or to LA. They obviously do not want the series to end today, though logistically that would make it easier. But I still think the Phillies, if I'm running that team, I'm getting them on a plane and I'm going somewhere, because I do not want to fly in the middle of the night tomorrow night.
That's a great answer, and that's stuff that you never even think about unless you've been in David's position. My answer is simple. If I'm the Phillies, I would rather play the Padres, just because the Dodgers are a much better team. And I know that even if the Padres win, they beat the Dodgers in the playoff series. Well, the Dodgers are still the better team. They won 111 games during the regular season for a reason. They're so talented and so deep. You just feel like with their backs against the wall right now, if they can find a way to get out of that series, they might go on a run where they win their next 8 games and sweep their way out into a World Series championship. So if I'm the Phillies, I would much rather play the team that has less talent and less depth. So, I would say let's bring on either team if you're in the Phillies' shoes. But deep down, I'd rather play the Padres.
Yeah, can you imagine if it is the Padres, though? They do this all in spite of Fernando Tatis Jr. Like, hey, we didn't need you. We didn't need you anyway. Joe Girardi, we didn't need you anyway in Philadelphia. It would be like the in spite of series. I like that, because I like chaos.
Well, and not only that, it would mean in a season with 3 National League teams with 100 wins, the most of all time, you'd have 2 teams in the 80s in wins in the NLCS.
Yeah, that's a great point. All 3 of the 100-win teams would be out of the playoffs. So what that tells you is you don't want to win 100 games in the regular season and then fall flat on your face in the postseason. I almost fell flat on my face.
Definitely doesn't tell you, Dermish. It doesn't tell you that. If you can win a hundo, you win a hundo.
What happened to the Mariners when they won a hundo?
Nothing good.
Right.
But that's the Mariners. But I understand what you're saying, but that's not really how teams look at it. But one of the things that you should be focused on is another great team could be on the ropes. We got the Guardians. Are you rooting hard for them right now, Dermish?
Of course. I mean, they're playing with house money too. Let's just get Guardians and Phillies in the World Series. Let's make it happen.
A nightmare for Major League Baseball.
You're right. It
Literally.
would be. And if it's not the Guardians, hey, Yankees, Phillies would be pretty good. Be a pretty good World Series. We've seen that before. It'd be a pretty good one. Well, we'll see how this shakes out for Philadelphia. David Samson and Matt Snyder joining us here on CBS Sports HQ. Men, thank you. As the Phillies advance, the 6th seed into the NLCS. How about that? I mean, the improbable Phillies onto the NLCS for the first time since 2010. They did not win that NLCS that year. The Giants won that year, went on to win the World Series. Now the Phillies wait the winner of the Padres and Dodgers. No matter what, the Phillies will be on the road, either San Diego or LA. Game 1 of the NLCS beginning Tuesday.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.